Kay Bailey Hutchison, Republican senator from Texas, is going to go on and talk about how, Obama isn't doing enough, even though he's put in 30,000 troops. But, of course, the Republican complaint is, how dare he mention a timeline for withdrawal, etc. And you know what? The MSNBC anchors do a pretty good job of asking her, hey, where were you for the 7 years that Bush didn't put in those troops? Let's watch.
But I've got to ask you here, people are looking at these numbers, and with this latest number announced by the president yesterday, that is more troops on the ground sent by this president than the previous administration, which leads one to wonder where were senators who saw the public and even soldiers calling Afghanistan the forgotten war. Where was this outcry for more soldiers on the ground then?
Well, I think what has happened is that the General McChrystal has asked for more troops. That's what the difference is. And I don't think that Afghanistan was ever forgotten, but I think when the Taliban started having a resurgence and really enabling al-Qaeda, then it became more acute, and General Petraeus and General McChrystal asked for the extra troops. And I think we need to give our generals on the ground the ability to accomplish the mission, and that is to stop al-Qaeda from exporting terrorism to America.
Senator, the complaint from Democrats, though, is that you're essentially shopping for the right generals. And Democrats are pointing out that in September of 2008, when President Bush was in office, the top U.S. commander in Afghanistan at the time, General David McKiernan, said this about his request for an additional 22,000 troops. Quote, "The danger is that we'll be here longer and we'll spend more resources and experience more human suffering than if we had more resources placed against this campaign sooner. The additional military capabilities that have been asked for are needed as quickly as possible." That request from General McKiernan was not granted until February of this year. It was granted by President Obama. So we acknowledge that Republicans who are speaking out today should have spoken out back at the end of the Bush administration.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what your time frame is, but I think certainly President Obama took several months to address the issue that General McChrystal had asked for more troops. And I think at this point we need to be talking about winning. We need to be talking about what is success. We need to establish that we are going to stop al-Qaeda from exporting terrorism. That should be the mission, and we should do whatever it takes to win this war on terror so Americans
but
can
Senator,
live in freedom.
a lot of Republicans weren't saying that when General McKiernan was making the request in the fall of 2008. President Bush, never mind taking 3 months, he didn't act on the request at all. And the Republicans didn't. We've checked through your record. Can you refresh our recollection as to whether you were complaining about your colleagues and about the Bush administration ignoring General McKiernan back in the fall of 2008?
Well, actually, Secretary Gates was the secretary then, and I know certainly that he is doing everything that he can with the requests that are made for Afghanistan, and we've had a ramp up of troop strength. We've been trying to allocate resources away from Iraq and into Afghanistan. I really don't know why we are talking about what has happened in 2008 so much as we ought to be talking about what's happening for the next 2 years to win this war on terror.
Well, I can answer that question for you, Senator Hutchison. Why are we talking about 2008 instead of right now, she says, trying to deflect attention from the very good questions by the anchors? That's because you guys pretend that all of a sudden you're super interested in Afghanistan and you've always been in favor of more troops in Afghanistan. Well, you were in charge for 7 long years during that war, and you never put in any more troops, and you never complained that Bush didn't put in any more troops. So why the concern all of a sudden? Could it be a political calculation you're making? No, I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure it has nothing to do with politics. But it does seem kind of curious, doesn't it? Young Turks.
Can't get enough of the Young Turks? Well, then subscribe to the TYT's YouTube channel. What's the matter with you?